All right. Okay. So I will start off with apologies. I was going to do this last night. But I had a Zoom meeting yesterday with this class that I was taking, and I wasn't sure the timing and all that. So, and also I think I was just playing a game. I forget, but yeah. So apologies for that. So let's go ahead and get into this right quick. So this is a let me see here. I'll have to go back. There we go. So this was a let me see here.
Whole Foods markets
There we
more
go.
than
We'll go ahead
500.
and pause it right there for a minute. Okay, so this was a debate between a literal guy who is head of the Ayn Rand Foundation. This guy, Zoran Brooks. I think I have it saved here. There we go. Yeah, Zoran Brooks. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, sorry. I thought I had it saved. Okay, so hold on. Let me go down here. Basically, he is the Yaron Brook. Excuse me. I don't know why I had Zoran. Yaron Brook. Yeah, chairman of the board, the Ayn Rand Institute. A literal. Oh my goodness. Okay, this guy is classic though. Oh my goodness. Okay, debating. He's going to be debating the CEO of Whole Foods. It's basically just a circle jerk because it's like, well, we both agree capitalism is good, but this conscious capitalism stuff that we're trying to do just doesn't really suit us. So, yeah, we're going to go over this. I downloaded it and decided to do it like this. That way I don't have to go back and forth and I can still see the chat. So this is much easier. But let's go ahead and get into this, man. This is crazy.
American stores. Managers ask every team member, from the meat clerks to the baristas to the janitorial staff, to orient their work around a shared purpose, which is to make natural and healthy food widely available. This goal, according to Whole Foods CEO and founder John Mackey, is in no way inconsistent with maximizing shareholder value. As Mackey writes in his new book, at the heart of conscious capitalism is a radical refutation of the negative perceptions of business and a rejection of the split between purpose and profit.
Oh my goodness. Is a radical refutation of the negative perceptions of a business and a rejection of the split between purpose and profit. Come on, man. You gotta be kidding me.
Soho Forum debate held on February 18, 2020. Ayn Rand Institute chair Yaron Brook challenged this view. He believes that maximizing profit should always be the primary goal of companies, and it's that focus which explains why capitalism has lifted the broad...
Okay, let me tell y'all about Yaron Brook right quick. Okay, so this guy was born in Israel and came to the United States. He was a, let me see here, I think he was a PSYOP guy for the IDF. Let me see what we got here. Let's see here. Co-founded a financial advisory firm with Robert Hendershot, BH Equity Research, where he continues today as managing director and chairman. Became an associate of leading objectivist intellectuals, such as philosopher Leonard Peikoff, objectivist and a close associate of Ayn Rand. Oh boy. Columnist for Forbes. I mean, yeah, this guy's all around. I mean, this guy loves capitalism, unironically. Criticized George W. Bush for signing the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which regulates corporate accounting practices. He also argued that antitrust laws are unjust. Oh, wow. And make no sense ethically or economically. So let's see here. I think when I was reading, somebody must. Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Served as first sergeant in military intelligence, Israeli military intelligence. Yeah. So this guy is a real winner. This guy, Yaron Brook. Let's see what he said. He gives the classic thing of Brook claims that the West is not at war with terrorism, but the ideology of Islamic terrorism. Talking about Islamic terrorism in this case. He reportedly said that just like in World War II, the U.S. wasn't at war against Japanese kamikaze pilots or German tanks, but the ideas of Nazism and Japanese Islam, taking it to its logical extreme. He believes Islamic totalitarians want to organize their governments according to Islam and that they wish to spread a global Islamic government across the world, sometimes using legitimate means, but mainly by using physical force, i.e. terrorism. Brooke claims that the Islamic totalitarians repeatedly express this openly, arguing, "It is a movement that believes in conquest. Islam should rule every aspect of one's life." Sorry. Those who disagree are second-class citizens worthy of death. They want an empire in the Middle East, but their goal ultimately is world domination, and they state this. They are never satisfied with oppressing their people and the world or the people around them. They want world domination. The morality of war. Oh, wow. So this guy's like writing killology type stuff, huh? This guy is crazy. Ayn Rand, more like Anne Kant. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but Islamofascism. Exactly, yeah.
Masses out of poverty. That's the message businesses should be emphasizing, he says, and it's inspiring enough. Mackey and Brooks went head-to-head at an event hosted in front of a sold-out audience of 200 people at the Brownwood Hotel and Spa in Florida.
Sold-out audience of 200 people. That is the most ironic thing I've ever heard. Sold-out audience of 200. That's like saying, it's like, please go ahead. I can't.
John Mackey wasn't able to make it to the event because of weather conditions in Austin, Texas, but he appeared via Zoom.
A clearly articulated purpose, consciously embodied by the leadership, should be an essential element in all business organizations while also enhancing shareholder value. John, I'm going to interrupt you when you have 5 minutes to go, 1 minute to go, and 30 seconds, just to warn you. So take it away, John, on that resolution. Go ahead.
Thanks, Gene. I'm going to bring my slides up now. Okay, great. So anyway, sorry I can't be with you. I tried very hard to get there. Bad weather, what can I say? So this debate resolution is a mouthful, isn't it? A clearly articulated purpose, consciously embodied by the leadership, should be an essential element in all business organizations, while also enhancing shareholder value. What the heck does that actually mean? We couldn't quite get an agreement on the topic, and this was somewhat of a compromise, I think, but essentially the way I interpret it is that, does business have a higher purpose besides only maximizing profits?
Oh, really?
And yeah, I think it does, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So let me declare my bias up front. I am a fanatical capitalist. I believe capitalism's the most important thing that humanity's collectively ever done. And I'm going to demonstrate that briefly because people need to understand how incredible capitalism is.
Oh, really?
Starting with, we can see the increasing wealth that capitalism has produced.
Let's see here. So once again, he's being very disingenuous already. Apparently there was a year zero, so I guess maybe he's like a base Pol Pot guy. Year 500, year 1000, 1500 up to 2000. He left out a wide range. You notice that? So it's already disingenuous, in my opinion. Already disingenuous where he's like, well, of course, GDP per capita. And once again, I mean, go ahead.
For most of human history, humans have been incredibly poor. It wasn't until capitalism and the Industrial Revolution that humanity began to escape its poverty conditions. If you go back, it's unprecedented. Just 200 years ago, the world's economy was at the level of Sierra Leone is today, and 94% of everyone alive were poor. Now the per capita income is growing by...
Okay, let's go back 200 years here, if we want to say this. I think this was 2020. So let's see here. Let's go back 200 years then to 1820. There were plenty of millionaires that existed in 1820. There were plenty of billionaires that existed in 1820. So, okay, like I say, I mean, let's go in here. Let's do 1820, right? Let's see here. I'm just gonna, see, it was a leap year. Let's see what else we got here. Indiana University Bloomington is founded. Indiana State. History of Antarctica, Imperial Russian Navy. Huh. So it doesn't sound like anything really, yeah. Go ahead.
Over 10x. It's over 24x in the United States, 41x in Hong Kong, 75x in South Korea.
He can't just
It's
say
incredible.
times. You notice that? 75x. He can't even say times. Declining global poverty.
How about poverty? Again, 94% of everyone alive back in 1820 was living on less than $2 a day.
Once again, if anyone did any actual research, they would consider that a huge range. You're talking a span here of, what is that, 195 years? That is completely disingenuous. And if you actually broke that down into maybe 20-year time spans or 40-year time spans, it wouldn't really work for your perspective. You have to go back 200 years to make it seem like capitalism is doing better for people. What's going on, Peter Bizzle? You have to go back that far to make your system look good. That's very sad.
Today in today's dollar, 94%. 85% lived on less than $1 a day. Economic freedom has a lot to do with whether or not how economically prosperous any type of country is. The more economically free it is, the higher the GDP per capita. The poorest people, it's better to be poor in a country like the United States with economic freedom than in another poorer country. So economic freedom also.
No, once again, that also depends on state as well. That just doesn't include this. Yeah, if you take China out of the equation, world poverty would actually have increased. Yeah, exactly. This is ridiculous. I mean, I hate to just continue to repeat this point. Notice that this is very, look how bland this slide is too. Least free, third quartile, second quartile, most free. Doesn't say a single country. Once again, even a simpleton as me can debunk this fairly easily. Go ahead.
Helps the poorest. Life expectancy has gone from about 30 years, 200 years ago now.
Once again, 1770 to 2019. And also, you notice that, I mean, obviously, I think this was done just last year in February of 2020. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt on this point. But life expectancy, since COVID-19 has hit, has decreased life expectancy by 4 years because of the amount of deaths that have occurred in the United States. So no, this is, like I say, once again, 2019, I understand. He did this in 2020. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here. But still, crapola data. Absolute crap data.
To 72.6 across the world and usually close to 80 in more developed, economically prosperous countries. Illiteracy, it's hard to believe, but 200 years ago, 88% of every human being alive was.
I don't think I'm going to keep repeating this point, but 200 years you have to go back. Did he go back 20 or 30 years? And also the thing about literacy versus illiteracy is very vague. And I think it's a term that's abused like so many other words. It's like, okay, just because someone is literate doesn't mean you're going to put, I don't know, all three versions of capital in front of somebody and they're going to know how to read them and understand them. So it's very disingenuous when people say, oh, well, literate. Or you can put even, something simple like, I don't know, or trying to understand the context of, Ricky Tick. Well, I was going to say that, but it just doesn't make any sense, does it? To understand the context of that, or read a book like Wealth of Nations. I'll put it that way. by Adam Smith and completely understand that, put that in front of a supposedly literate, quote unquote, person. I don't like that term. But anyway, go ahead.
Was illiterate, and that's dropped now down to about 12%. Here's the Economic Freedom Index. I put this up there to make a couple of points. The first one is the United States, which would have been has been number one, number two, or number three for most of our history.
Once again, this is Cope. Oh, well, the U.S. was, one or two in the world, but now, Singapore. I mean, Hong Kong, once again, Chinese territory. And before that, it was just a British colony. New Zealand. New Zealand, I think what they were talking about before, Commander Brutus was talking about this, is that they, they're pretty much just, they're subsidized, as far as I know, I guess, by Australia. So, I mean, it's just, go ahead. Disingenuous.
We've fallen. Our economic freedom is in decline in the United States. As a result, our prosperity, while still very good, it's not growing at the same rate that it once did.
Yeah, because once again, even I should read up more on it, but the rate of falling profit, even Marx talked about that, is that you can only make so much money for so long before it goes down. Even in marketing, there's the product life cycle of, just reaching into infancy, going into, maturity, and then going into more of a downfall. And I know I didn't get those terms right, and I don't care. But the thing is that this is, once again, such a bad premise.
I put this up here because the Nordic countries are held out as great examples of...
Once again, I'm so sick of everybody talking about the Nordic countries. Can we just ignore the Nordic countries? Can we just do that? Can we just stop talking about them? Because people use them for things that they don't know anything about. It's just like, oh, well, Denmark, Iceland, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. It's like, okay, I'm get so tired of Bernie Sanders talking about the Nordic countries. I also get tired of capitalists trying to dab on them. It's just ridiculous.
Socialism. And in fact, their economic freedom is extremely high. They think of themselves as capitalistic, not socialistic. And
they're not socialist.
Denmark
They're
and
social democratic. They're social democratic at best. They're suck dams, which is still capitalism.
Higher degrees of economic freedom than the United States, and these other countries are pretty darn close. So I'm going to argue that business is fundamentally good because we are the value creators in the world. Business creates value.
No, value, and I'm going to give my ignorant take here, but value, can be created in many different ways. Value, in my opinion, is created by what someone is willing to pay for something. That's what makes it valuable, and how much, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess you could say. It's like, okay, you can have a regular, I'll put it this way, is I was watching a documentary about the faked Hitler diary, the fake Hitler diaries and whatnot. Absolute, fake. Absolute, there's this, thief, and art, art guy who fakes art and all that, and everything else like that, made these Hitler diaries. People were paying 100,000 marks and everything else like that for these things. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing with paintings. It's about how much people think it's worth. It's about the idea, and it's about the subjective view of it than its actual value. It's the same thing with a car. Once again, yeah, you can have a vehicle, but when you drive it off the lot, you automatically lose value. Once again, I mean, that's the whole idea of blue books and everything else like that. Now, of course, people are still stupid enough to believe, oh, well, this is what it says in the blue book. Why isn't my car worth that? they aren't going to pay the blue book price, but that's the whole thing, is that it loses its value, So, I mean, it's the same thing with just, it's the same thing with that Wu-Tang album, for example, what is it? The Streets of Shaolin or something, whatever the hell it was. But it's like they paid $2 million for that. It's just about, what someone creates value to be. So, I mean, it's a matter of opinion. Go ahead. I know I lost a lot of people with that bullshit argument. I apologize. I'm just an idiot. But still.
Through voluntary exchange with customers and with all of the different stakeholders it trades with. We are the great value creators. We create far more value than all of the governments and all of the nonprofits in the world combined, exponentially. And business is ethical because we make the money that we make.
The thing is, he says that now, oh, we make far more than any government, this and that. Once again, get off the Lolbert train, okay? Get off the Lolbert train and say, oh, well, companies do great. The thing is that companies are still, beholden to the government, regardless of how you want to put it. Because guess what? The government has firearms, and the government, more to the point, has folks that are willing to come in and say, hey, you better stop it or else we're going to send people in, and they're going to charge more because they own the borders and they own, the ports and everything else. And anything that comes in, you're going to get your, your excise tax and, your tariffs and all that business. So when you say stuff like, oh, well, we don't make, the governments can't control us, this and that, that's a ridiculous argument.
Because we do it through voluntary exchange, not through coercion, not through guns. No one's forced to trade with Whole Foods Market, for example. If you don't like Whole Foods, if you think we're too expensive, if you don't like our quality, if you don't like our selection, if you don't like our service, you go to one of our competitors. And that means everyone that trades with us is doing so because they believe it's in their self-interest to do so. And business is noble because it can elevate our existence. And finally, business is heroic because it's business that's lifting people out of poverty. It's business that has taken that 94% of the people living on less than $2 a day down to under 10%.
Once again, this is, okay, business is heroic because it lifts people out of poverty. Really? The thing is that businesses can also keep people in poverty, such as companies like Amazon, or I know people use Amazon too much, but even like Target, or Walmart. These are companies that keep people living at, just barely scraping by sort of wages, because ultimately costs are rising because they don't want to pay too much for gas and all that sort of business. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, capitalism is great. I did all that because of this slide. Capitalism is the most wonderful system humanity's ever created, but it's deeply disliked.
He's about to.
Industrial revolution. It can elevate our spending to create far.
He's about to give the multicultural Marxism argument. He's about to do it, so get ready.
Far more value than all of the governments and all of the nonprofits in the world combined, exponentially. And business is ethical because we make the money that we make because we do it through voluntary exchange, not through coercion, not through guns. No one's forced to trade with Whole Foods Market.
Puts nearly every local business out of operation. That is a good thing. Exactly.
If you don't like our quality, if you don't like our selection, if you don't like our service, you go to one of our competitors. And that means everyone that trades with us is doing so because they believe it's in their self-interest to do so. And business is noble because it can elevate our existence. And finally, business is heroic because it's business that's lifting people out of poverty. It's business that has taken that 94% of the people living on less than $2 a day down to under 10%.
Notice he said $2 a day.
Capitalism is great. I did all that because of this slide. Capitalism is the most wonderful system humanity's ever created, but it's deeply disliked. It's hated in many cases.
Yeah.
Here you can see from these polls. And the Gallup poll shows that confidence in big business is only about 23%. I mean, 77% don't have any confidence in big business.
What's that? No, thank you. Okay. Oh, what's going on? Some Northern nationalists. How are you?
The Hart research shows that 83% of Americans think that the government benefits big corporations and the wealthy, but it not over the middle class.
Mm-hmm.
Roper shows 2%, only 2% of investors believe CEOs like myself are very trustworthy. And 72% believe wrongdoing is commonplace in companies.
Yep. Don't talk about Enron in Texas. Don't talk about, any of these other types of places. Don't talk about those companies that always get their, hands caught in the cookie jar and whatnot. But those are other issues. He doesn't even bring that up. I know, but to them, that's whataboutism. That's whataboutism. Don't talk about that.
In 2018, only 45% of millennials had a positive view of capitalism, while 51% had a positive view of socialism. That's astounding.
Why?
Why has it happened?
Well, yeah, tell me. Tell me why when you have, COVID-19, and I know that this was just before that, but you have plenty of folks who had to lie about their education. I mean, if people were dumb enough to get a master's degree in economics, they had to lie about their education, because otherwise they would have said that they're too educated, that they have they just don't want to pay those people that much. So if you came to somebody and you were working, let's say that your choice was working at a bank. If you said that you had a master's degree in economics, they would probably be like, no, you're overqualified, and they'll let you go. So you have to lie and say, well, yeah, I got my I got a associate's degree, I don't know, in basket weaving or something like that, But yeah, I mean, of course he's not going to talk about that.
It's happened because the motives of business are misunderstood.
Oh, it's misunderstood.
Anti-capitalists have created a negative narrative about capitalism and business. The anti-capitalists, largely the intellectuals who control and teach at our universities.
Largely, cultural Marxism. Cultural Marxism have taken over the universities. Is he going to say anything about is he going to talk about should we clear up the colleges and whatnot? Oh, no, we don't need to do that though. But yeah, go ahead.
They've always hated business. They've always persecuted it throughout history. This is not new. Business is portrayed as greedy and selfish and exploitative.
Yeah.
And fundamentally not good.
Yeah. Don't talk about Andrew Carnegie. Don't talk about him, sending in the Pinkertons to crack the heads of protesters and whatnot, back during that time, or talk about the horrible conditions in Amazon, or talk about the, conditions in, factory farms, where a lot of immigrants have to work because they, don't speak English. Yeah, I mean, okay, go ahead, buddy. You won't talk about commodification of anything holy. Exactly, yeah. The only thing I have against big companies is they can buy political power. They have lots of advantages other than that. Okay.
And finally, the defenders of capitalism have done a terrible job of defending the purpose and ethics of business. They oftentimes, when the critics of capitalism say, capitalism is all about greed. It's all about selfishness. It's all about exploitation. So
yeah.
Many of the defenders say, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah, people are naturally selfish. People are naturally greedy. And so capitalism takes it.
He's going to be talking to an objectivist from the Ayn Rand. Let me make sure I get this right. Yeah, the Ayn Rand Institute. So yeah, okay.
Advantage of that and helps, and that by basically using those motives, business and capitalism through the invisible hand create prosperity in the world. I think when we take that defense, we've automatically lost the debate with the average person who doesn't see selfishness as good, who doesn't see greed as something that's,
Well, yeah.
they see it as Gordon Gekko said in Wall Street. They think it's not good. And so the ethics of capitalism are mistrusted and disliked. And
Oh, yeah.
so these are the three reasons why I think capitalism is the great system that has led to the prosperity, and yet we're in danger of losing it in the United States because of these three major reasons. So that leads me to conscious capitalism. I'll talk briefly about this. I don't have that much time in 15 minutes. But it's fundamentally a new narrative, a new way to think about business. And
This is kind of like a Andrew Yang level sort of argument. But yeah, let's hear it.
4 tenets: higher purpose, stakeholder interdependence, conscious leadership, and conscious cultures. And so this debate's primarily about purpose. And I'm going to argue that businesses need to shift from focusing on profit maximization to purpose maximization. And what is the purpose of a business in the first place? Why does business exist? And it's kind of, if you go to a party and you ask people randomly what the purpose of business is.
Well, in the United States, it's to increase shareholder value. Simple answer. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but yeah, for the United States, that's what it is. To get a return on the investment that, your rich benefactor gave you. It's that simple, so that they could put their money into, other stocks or put it into cryptocurrency or whatever the hell it is.
They'll look at you quizzically because they'll say, what do you mean, what's the purpose of business? Everybody knows the purpose of business. The purpose of business is to make money, right? That's an odd answer. Because if you think about every other profession, what's the purpose of a doctor? Doctors make a lot of money. Doctors are well compensated, but that's not their purpose. Their purpose.
Well, hold on. Depends on what sort of doctor you are. Like I say, there's a whole lot of doctors that exist, not just one thing. You can be a surgeon and be a doctor, or you can be a be a cardiologist, or more specifically, or you could be, the type of doctor, in in philosophy or something like that. So yeah, I mean, you have to be careful with that word. Maybe I'm being nitpicky here, but it's like, come on, man.
People, right? Teachers educate, architects design buildings, engineers construct things. Every one of the professions refers back to a higher purpose that's in type of creating value for other people in service of the greater public good. Great companies have great purposes. Amazon, parent company of Whole Foods now, our vision is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. Google, our mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And the Whole Foods market.
Yeah, Witch Doctor too. Yeah.
Co-found and lead. Our purpose is to nourish people on the planet. And that has been our purpose since the very beginning, over 43 years ago now.
Yeah.
The importance of stakeholders. All stakeholders matter. Sure, the investors matter. Of course, we should try to make as much money as possible for our investors. But all the other stakeholders matter too. Customers matter, employees matter, suppliers matter, and the larger community matters. They're all interdependent. They're all connected together. And what I've learned in business is we have to manage.
Some are more important than others, though. Let's be honest. Come on now. There are certain customers that you want to keep happy and others that you don't. It's the same thing with employees. Yeah, they all matter, but guess what? If they can't pull the slack, you're going to kick them to the curb. So let's be honest about ourselves, won't we?
Manage the business consciously to create value for all of these stakeholders. And when we do that, we optimize profits. We optimize shareholder value. Leadership's extremely important as well. Right. We must be the change that we wish the world.
Why are you using Gandhi? Nobody cares about Gandhi. Gandhi has been lambasted for his racial comments on black folks. That's why they tore down his statue, I think, I want to say it was South Africa, and everything else. So, no, Gandhi is not the best person, but I know that this guy's a boomer who doesn't know what's going on.
To see in the world. That's what Gandhi said. And as leaders, as conscious leaders, we must embody the higher purpose of the organization, the values that the organization is trying to realize in the world. When Raj Sisodi and I did our research for conscious capitalism, these were the qualities and virtues that conscious leaders continually embody. More authentic, emotionally intelligent, service-oriented, high integrity, more spiritually evolved, more purpose-driven. Some of the things conscious leaders do, we create a shared purpose. This is a picture of a Whole Foods. That's our team.
Very simple question for you. What I would ask him is, what do you think about unions? What do you think about, the farmers union, farm workers union? Ask him about that. What do you think of United Farm Workers? Do you think that that's a good thing? And do you approve of doing that? Because I imagine that this guy, does not work with United Farm Workers as far as I know, but yeah, I don't know. And like I say, you could probably say that, United Farm Workers is not what it used to be, but still.
We've got 100,000 people working for our company, and they stick around for two main reasons: purpose and love, as well as, of course, compensation. We're here to make a positive difference in the world. Conscious leaders are here to make the world better in some significant way. We help people to grow and evolve. We help create win-win-win strategies. We do not simply work in terms of trade-offs. We're constantly seeking to optimize all of the stakeholders to create value for all of them simultaneously.
Mm.
We practice servant leadership. As Albert Schweitzer said, I don't know what your destiny will be, but
once again, okay, so Gandhi, a political leader, but you said, hold on, but he said that, governments don't have the same power that businesses do. Okay, so why are you mentioning him? Albert Schweitzer, let me make sure here. I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about him. Let me make sure what he did. A theologian. Okay, so he was medicine, music, philosophy, theology. Okay. Yeah, I've heard the name, but I don't know too much about it. But yeah, University of Strasbourg, German and French. But yeah, like I say, this is okay. So he's using people. Notice that he's not using any business people to determine what this is. Yeah. Cesar Chavez marched by my grandpa's farm on his way north. Oh, wow, neat. I personally think that we should make workers into owners as much as possible.
Thing I do know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Conscious leaders serve the higher purpose of the organization. They serve all of the stakeholders. And in doing that,
once again,
business.
I don't think Albert Schweitzer meant that. And I'm sure if he was alive today, he would probably smack you upside the head and say, why are you using my words to describe your company?
Prospers, and that helps the investor prosper. Higher purpose matters in business. Business is not a profit maximization game.
Yeah, it is.
Business is not a machine.
Yes, it is.
Business is not an algorithm. It may use
hold on. I mentioned Andrew Yang before, but to say that, business is not a machine. Yes, it is a machine. That's the whole thing. And business is not an algorithm. It absolutely is. That's why Walmart is such a big company, because they do constant monitoring of what people want and how much people purchased and everything else. It is an algorithm. Yes, it's the same thing with Amazon. It is an algorithm, yes, to decide what are the most efficient routes. That's why they have drones, and they have been approved to use drones. You think that if it was about people, then they wouldn't have drones that, they could take as long as they wanted to. No, it's about efficiency. Don't lie to yourself.
Algorithm, but that's not what it is. Business is certainly not war. It's not hyper competition. It's not a Darwinian survival.
Business is war, though. It's a cutthroat thing, You think that, like I say, this is more of a lumpen proletariat attitude, but you think that war between the north side and south side of Chicago, you think that they were nice about them? No, I don't think they were. Or do you think that, building a business or building a company, building a shop right across from another person, you think that's not about a price war? You think that business is absolutely war. It absolutely is. I mean, you could even bring up, drugs and everything else, but I'm trying to do it in a more, different context. You think that, Ford and GM didn't go at it, or anything else? This is ridiculous. No, business is war. Absolutely. If I was more intelligent and I had a better memory, then I would, gladly give you some more examples. But you know what? Let's move on.
Game of the fittest, survival of the fittest game.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, business is about the lives of real people. It is one of the most human things that we can do.
No.
We must therefore measure our success by the way in which we fulfill our higher purpose as individuals and as business organization, and how we improve the lives of other people.
No, that's at least the purported ideas of religion, not business.
If we do that, then if we embody these qualities, if we live with purpose, if our organizations consciously create value for other people, we will create and optimize shareholder value as well.
Absolutely, Ole.
I urge you to vote yes for the affirmative on this debate resolution tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Now, Yaron Brook, who is the chairman of the Ayn Rand Institute, will speak for the negative for 15 minutes. Take it away, Yaron.
Thank you. Thanks, Gene.
There we go.
Thank you, Gene,
Ayn
for
Rand
organizing
Institute.
this, and thank you, John, who's somewhere there, for agreeing to do this debate. When Gene first approached me about this debate, we went through a whole number of different resolutions, and as you can see, John and I agree on much. And the nuance of how to structure resolutions so that we would actually have a debate instead of a agreement festival
A circle
was
jerk
a
is
real
what we call it.
challenge. I think, though, we found something we
1% for the environment logo on products. Yeah. Ethical capitalism. Yeah, exactly.
actually disagree about, and that is good. But let me first say that it's an honor for me to be debating John Mackey. I'm a huge admirer of his, obviously as an incredibly successful CEO, as an incredibly successful businessman who has created enormous amounts of wealth and shareholder value, and as somebody who has indeed changed, I think, a lot of our lives, or at least those of us who are customers and associated with Whole Foods. So it really is an honor and a pleasure for me to be debating John. Also, John is an advocate for capitalism. And it's, you saw the graphs. And of course, we agree
They were
on
awful.
all of that, on all the good stuff.
Those graphs were awful. Those were the most disingenuous graphs I've just about ever seen. Yeah, we're going to go back 200 years. We're going to go back to the 1770s even to describe the rise of capitalism. Because the thing is, if you simplified it to the 1920s and saw the Great Depression because of the stock market, you wouldn't be using that argument. You have to go back 200 years and use a bigger scale and use smoke and mirrors to make your system look better.
Stuff that capitalism provides. If you know anything about me, I spend my life traveling the world trying to explain to people the value of capitalism and the benefits that it has provided humanity, or anybody who's been willing to try even a little bit of it. Right? To the extent that people try capitalism, people try freedom, to that extent, they are
Freedom.
successful as societies.
Capitalism and freedom mean the same thing, apparently. Oh boy.
Countries, from an economic but also social and life extension in terms of longevity, by every measure of human well-being. But what's interesting is that we've got all this success for the last, if you look at those graphs from before, really for the last 250 years, we've had this amazing success of capitalism. Capitalism has produced all these amazing goods, and it's extended our life and increased the quality of our living, and by every measure has been fantastic.
It's going down. It's going down now. It's going down. I'm yelling timber. I'm sorry. I had to do it, but yeah. It's good. It's gone down by 4 years alone because of, the amount of deaths that have occurred in the United States, which is up to, let's see here. Let me make sure. COVID deaths in U.S. Let's see here. How many? Let me see here. Overview. Yeah, overview. Of course. Let's see here. Number of COVID. Okay, I'll just do COVID number of COVID deaths. Okay, I'll do, yeah. Okay, god damn it. This is number of COVID deaths in U.S. to date. There we go. Okay. Okay, they keep giving me this graph. Yeah, 526,000 have died. Over 500,000 people have died. Because, and of course they're going to blame, of course you're going to have some folks who are going to be like, well, we just didn't have enough masks and everything else and la-di-da. Oh, boy. Go ahead. So great, the rich got richer and my wages haven't gone up. Exactly, yeah.
And yet, it was all done, or mostly done, for the most part done, in the name of what? In the name of profit maximization. Now, let me be clear about what I mean by profit. I don't mean the counting number that comes at the end of an income statement, because we know that that can be manipulated and changed or something. I'm talking about economic profit. I'm talking about the value created above and beyond the resources deployed to create a good. So over the long run, right?
Okay. Let me be clear here. Okay. I'm going to read about, because you have exchange value and you also have, the labor theory of value. Now, to me, like I say, I have my own definition of value, but the thing is that value is open up to interpretation. The thing is that value, to me, can mean, it's like, you could have a Sturmgewehr 44 or something like that, right? And some people may say, it's a piece of junk. Take off that wood piece and, let's melt it down. Where some people will say, no, this Sturmgewehr is valuable, right? So it's about, it's like that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's the same thing that you'll pay, $100,000 or something like that for an original Salvador Dali or something like that. It's about value, right? If it was some that was drawn by your cousin, it wouldn't be worth bupkis. So, yeah, go ahead.
So it's over the long run, the real value created through a particular activity, whether it's a service or manufacturing, that produces something that didn't exist before. Right? So profit is not an accounting number necessarily. It is a projection about the added benefit over the long run that a particular activity will generate. We often use the term shareholder wealth maximization, which again, and I apologize for being technical, it's not very technical, this is very simple, is basically the sum of those future profits, or at least ideally represents that sum of those future profits. So when we talk about shareholder wealth maximization, we're talking about trying to maximize the profitability of a business over the long run. And indeed, that's what implicitly almost every capitalist businessman has done for the last 250 years. And that increase in wealth, prosperity, life expectancy, all that stuff is not just some hypothetical thing. You know, it was created by capitalism, which is some floating abstraction above our heads. That was created by business people like John, working unbelievably hard, unbelievably smart, creating business.
Notice that okay. So let's make sure he says some things. So once again, I mean, value is also counted by the real world price of things and what things are available at the time, right? So when you have the money, it's okay for you to, to have a cleaner, right? To have someone to come in and clean your house. When times are bad, you're going to be doing your own cleaning. So it's a luxury. This is the same type of thing of what is, of what something is valuable, or it's like, I have the money, I'm going to go to the bar or something like that. But when you have just enough money to pay for your bills, you're just going to have, Old Milwaukee when you go home. For those that don't know, Old Milwaukee is, very cheap, watery beer. But, I guess if you can get a buzz off it. But, that's the whole thing, right? And it also comes down to how much, but the thing is that people like this are not talking about, how much people are getting paid, this and that, so that they can pay for it. It's just a smaller group of people that are willing to, go ahead.
And making a lot of money. But how do you make money? How come all of us are better off because they made money? 250 years ago, that would have been a real head scratcher, right? But how is it that we are better off when they make money?
Tell us.
Because the only way for them to make money, the only way a business makes money, is by providing us, all of us, whether we're part of the business or not, with a value. We buy their products. We buy their products for more than what it cost them to produce. That's the profit. And yet, our lives are better off as well.
That's a matter of opinion. Once again, I mean, you could talk about the iPhones that exploded because of their, bad, their bad issues, or the fact that they could go to the Dollar Tree and get something of equal value compared to somewhere like Great Foods, right? It's like, am I going to go to, this Great Foods place and pay, $5 for an apple? Or am I just going to go to Walmart and pay $1 for it? You tell me. I mean, that's, actually, let me check Great Foods. Let me see here. What is it? Is it Great Foods or what? Go ahead. I don't even care.
John referred to this as win-win. He added a third win. Maybe we'll get to that third win later, but I'll just deal with two wins. The business wins because it makes a profit. I win because I got a value that I didn't have before. We're both better off.
Notice he didn't say anything about paying the employees. Didn't say anything about that. At least not yet. Just saying, basically is that, well, whatever capitalists produce, you better damn well buy it,
And that's what capitalism has been about for the last 250 years. That gaining a profit and improving all of our lives in the process. But we have a PR problem. Capitalism has a PR problem. Business has a PR problem. And John articulated it. The world doesn't like us.
Public relations, of course, that whole industry comes from Edward Bernays, who wrote books like, Crystallizing on Public Opinion, and wrote books like Propaganda. Now, of course, I mean, there are a lot of people who wrote books called Propaganda, even people like Walter Lippmann, who's kind of in the same vein as Edward Bernays. But, Edward Bernays helped to really push for, the campaign to, for example, to make sure that, governments stayed cozy with, Chiquita Banana to continue to, keep the workers working for, pennies on the dollar so that they didn't have to pay them more. So, yeah.
Or like those of us who are capitalists, or those of us who are in business, or those of us who made a lot of money in business. We have a PR problem, we are told. And we do. You saw all those. I won't repeat all the statistics about how people view business. Now, why is this? Why do they view us so horrifically? Is it because they don't know the history? Well, to some extent, people don't know. Is
What
it because
history?
they don't understand? Well, to some extent, they don't understand.
You mean the stock market crash? Or, like I say, I mean, I could bring up that, or the scandals of, whichever car company. Do you want to talk about Enron? Do you want to talk about, child labor? I mean, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? What issues do you want to bring up?
There's a gap in our economics education. There's a gap in our history education. There's certainly gaps of knowledge. But there's a much more fundamental core reason.
There are gaps. No, I think that people, once again, I just don't think you like the fact when people talk about history and kind of show how scummy capitalists were, people will try to portray Andrew Carnegie as if he was some hero at the end of his life when he was, giving out all this money to, have different buildings with his name on it, when in actuality, it was a competition between him and other, I can't think of who it was offhand, but I think it was Rockefeller. These folks do not care, about you. They only care about you so much as far as you're willing to buy their product, whatever that may be.
Why they don't buy the story. And John alluded to it. It's because in their mind, the activity of business, the activity of generating a profit, is fundamentally a self-interested activity.
Yeah, it is.
It's the business is making a profit for itself. Yes, everybody it touches, almost, not everybody. I don't think that all stakeholders benefit, but most people it touches benefit as well. But
Really?
Some people get really, really rich, really, really successful. Some people are benefiting enormously. And they are labeled self-interested, and they are self-interested. John, it's not just about the money, I believe him, but it's about his purpose, and it's about his passion. That's part of his self-interest. So yes, CEOs, businesses do pursue their own self-interest.
Mm-hmm.
But we live in a culture where self-interest
We live in a society.
is viewed morally, ethically, as a negative, as a bad thing, as something to be avoided. Where selflessness, where being Mother Teresa is viewed as an ideal. Right.
No, actually, people don't like Mother Teresa because she said some pretty awful things about people dying in India, et cetera, et cetera. So no, Mother Teresa is probably not the idea. This guy needs to go out more.
And part of my objection to John's approach in conscious capitalism and conscious leadership is he's trying to take an ethic of selflessness and altruism, not quite, he softens it, and merge it with clearly an economic, social, political activity, or social and economic activity, that is self-interested. It just is. And what most libertarians do, unfortunately, is they accept the status quo when it comes to morality. They accept the status quo about ethics that exists in our culture.
Yep, this guy's an objectivist, and now his objectivist beliefs are starting to come out. Here we go. Get ready for the mask off, folks.
And they want to somehow take capitalism and fix it, and merge it, and twist it into that ethical framework. And Ayn Rand provides us with a real alternative. And that alternative is an alternative moral code. It's not to reject ethics. It's not to reject morality, but to center that ethics and to center that morality on self-interest. From a business perspective, on the profit.
Every man for theyself in this land would be gunning. I mean, come on. Okay. Believe these things, but just coming out and saying it like this is unusual. Yeah, it is.
Motive. Profit is not something to be shunned. It's not something to be explained and softened and build purposes around it. Profit is value creation, with very few exceptions. There is no profit without the long term, without the creation of value. I'm not talking about GameStop, right? GameStop, there's profit without value creation.
Oh, wow. So go ahead.
But that's rare and unusual. And most of the people who made a profit from GameStop, my guess is, are going to lose it because it's not a winning strategy.
Oh, did they do this in February 2021? If so, then holy shit. Okay.
Over the long run, profit is value creation. Financial markets price companies based on their ability to create value long term. Now, I know John disagrees with this. I read his book where I think some of our disagreements got sharpened, which I recommend. I think everybody should read it. There's a lot of really interesting stuff there, and a lot of stuff that I agree with. But there's also stuff I don't.
5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, thanks. Markets are very good at identifying and pricing value.
No, the markets are not good at that. No, markets are not good at that at all. Because the thing is that if markets were good at that, then they would have predicted the rise of computers. They rejected computers for decades. And took companies like Apple many, many years to get off the ground. So no, markets are not good at predicting those things. It's the same thing with, like I say, if markets were good at that, then why weren't there enough face masks? And it took us however many months to get that. Like I said, they didn't see that coming. They didn't see the issues at hand. The thing is that once again, I mean, he dabs on GameStop. But no, markets are horribly inefficient. Horribly. Like I say, even if you don't believe in, socialism as a more humanistic system, consider it more of a practical and a more, efficient system of production to a point. I know people are going to say, but capitalism is horribly inefficient. How many cars are produced, in the year, in 2020 or something like that are still on the lot? Like, well, we're going to sell them. Or, you think about the food that's wasted because nobody wants it. It's the same thing. I was watching a video earlier today about, Brexit, how it is now. And they're basically doing all this fishing. All these fishermen are getting this fish. And the markets that they had before Brexit, they can't sell all that fish because basically the British don't want it. The British, population does not want it. So no, this is no. Like I say, I wish I had some better arguments. I wish I was better prepared. But yeah, this idea that markets are efficient is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Once again, whether it's whichever oil crash that you had, whether it's the I mean, there are so many other issues that show these market crashes that come up every couple of years. No, absolutely not. They are not efficient, though. I'm sorry. I went on a long rant there, but let's continue on. This is going to be a long one, folks. I appreciate y'all sticking with me.
Many of us spend our lives,
we may skip ahead.
our professional lives, at refining and improving markets to better reflect real value. In other words, the profit potential of a business. So I propose an alternative resolution that focuses on what I think business is really about. Business is about making money, and we shouldn't run away from that. It's different than nonprofits. It's different than clubs and other types of organizations. The purpose of business is to take the inputs that the world provides us, inputs are raw materials, those inputs are technologies, those inputs are ideas, those inputs are human, those inputs are capital. And rearrange them in a way that adds value. And that additional value is reflected in the profit they make. So to say I want a business to maximize shareholder wealth means I want the business to maximize the value they create. Those two are synonymous. You cannot increase profits over the long run without doing exactly that, without creating that kind of value. So I propose that the purpose of a business is to maximize.
So in other words, you're going to produce it as cheaply as you can with the cheapest workforce that you can. And, apart from other things that, are more fixed costs that you can't really change, you're going to figure out, which places where you can sell it cheapest at. And then you're going to jack up the price so that you can maximize profit. That's what he's saying.
My shareholder wealth by creating value in the marketplace within the context, and I agree with John with regard to kind of the way he views, some of the way he views purpose, within the context of a clearly articulated mission. And you could add consciously embodied by the leadership, where consciously would mean, to me at least, rational, thoughtful, fully focused, fully intentional. I would take out some of the things that John probably would include.
Rational.
So the alternative, when you're voting now, right? The purpose of a business is to maximize shareholder wealth, maximize long-term profit, if that's easier to think of, within the context, by creating value, within the context of a clearly articulated mission, consciously embodied by its leadership. I think that is consistent with what business actually does. It's consistent with a philosophy, with an idea that says profit.
I'm not sure, Union Army Ball. Let me take a look. Egoism, objectivism. Okay, let me see here. Okay. The final aspect of objectivist ethics needs to be addressed. That is what the proper beneficiary of one's actions ought to be. Thus, the core of objectivism is egoism. And one should rationally pursue self-interest and maintain a policy of selfishness. So it doesn't sound like there's much difference. But yeah, that's all I can really think of offhand. But yeah. If someone else in the chat is much smarter than me can explain the difference, by all means. But yeah, that's all I can really think of at this point. So apologies, folks.
Is good, but profit is moral. Profit is virtuous by its very nature as a value creator in a voluntary society in which we exchange and therefore are creating value for ourselves. We should never apologize for creating value for ourselves. And yes, for everybody else, otherwise you don't profit. If you create stuff just for you, it's called a hobby. In order to make it a business, you have to create value for other people. And that value is reflected in profits. Let's not shy away from that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Yaron. You can hear me on the. We now go to the.
It's not. It clearly. So profit is good.
As a value creator.
Many things. We both. We believe in liberty. We believe in freedom. We believe in profit. So, is profit good? He argues profit's good. Hey, profit is good. Profit's wonderful. I love profits. Whole Foods Market's made billions and billions of dollars. We founded the company. So profit is good. But he says business is about making money. And I don't think it is. I think he's confused the result with purpose. And maybe the best way to explain it is through an analogy. So
Mm.
my body produces red blood cells. And if it stopped producing red blood cells, I would die.
Okay.
But it doesn't logically follow that just because my body must produce red blood cells, that its purpose is to produce red blood cells. I have a more transcendent purpose than simply trying to produce red blood cells. And similarly, business must make money. If business does not make money, it will die. But that doesn't mean that's why it exists. Profit comes as a result of creating value for other people. And the higher purpose of a business is found in that value creation. That's why it exists. It exists to create value for other people. If it does a good job at that, it will make money. It will make profit. I think he's putting the cart before the horse.
Okay. Awful analogy, number one. Number two is that this is the whole idea of how people are identified through brands and everything else like that. They love, like I said, everyone loves a Ford or something like that. Well, I love driving my Ford. Or I love driving my Chevy. These are ridiculous arguments. Nobody cares. You know, it's the idea that you're trying to, you know, create value, this and that you know, you can move beyond these things. No, this is a, crapola argument. But yeah, they feel the need to moralize profit. Yeah.
He's talked about win-win, and
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So the difference is objectivists like right libertarianism and egoists like left libertarianism. I guess that's the way it always has been in my experience. Yeah. I think it's a little more complicated than that, but yeah. Can't afford a car gang. Yeah, exactly.
argue for a win-win-win. And what that means is when we make exchange, a good
Believe me, I spent many years riding the bus. I know the struggle, or having to walk. Oh yeah.
exchange should be something that's good for you and good for me, but also good for the larger community, particularly the larger community of stakeholders. I can use an example to get you to see my point. Well, let's say you wanted to murder somebody. You could contract with a guy who knows a guy, and you contract to kill that person. That would be, and you pay $50,000 to have this person murdered.
Okay. Well, awful analogy once again, but okay.
That would be a win for the person you contract with. They're getting $50,000. That'd be a win for you. You're getting rid of somebody that you don't want to have around, exist any longer. But is that a win for the larger society? It's not. It clearly is not. And so win-win isn't good enough. We need to create.
Okay. You need to come up with better analogies, okay, Mr. Mackey? Because that was an awful analogy. To compare that to an assassin or a killer. No, Biggin, that's an awful analogy. Because the thing is, what you could say then is, what my, wise ass would say is, maybe that guy was hated by everybody. Maybe nobody liked him. Maybe his own family didn't like him. And they were just like, yeah, we want this guy bumped off. So no, that's an awful argument.
Win-win-win type of arrangements.
Just because you make billions of dollars does not make you a genius. Can we at least agree on that? Just because you have billions of dollars does not make you some moral person that that should be able to talk about these things. No, you should not.
Where it's good for you, good for me, and good for the larger community that we're part of. I always feel like when I've talked to objectivists that I'm talking to straw man. I'm always arguing this straw man argument that it's of course human beings are self-interested. It's obvious that we are. I don't say that's a bad thing that we're self-interested. I reject sort of a philosophy that human beings should be completely altruistic in all circumstances. But it's a straw man argument because any if you look at human nature, you can see that human beings are clearly both. We are self-interested, and we are also capable of love. We're capable in love. We're capable of generosity and kindness and forgiveness and compassion and gratitude and care. We do both. We are self-interested and we care about others. And business isn't just about maximizing profits. It's about creating value for other people. We are both self-interested and we care about other people. So it's always frustrating to me because I've had this argument before and I can never get the complexity of.
Cannot make decisions
Okay,
based
you know what?
on.
I'm going to skip ahead because this is turning my brain into mush. And I do have another video that's a little more interesting. Holy moly. Let's go ahead and skip to the end here, can we? Or we'll get... Yeah. Holy shit, this is long. I forgot how long this was. Okay. Let's go ahead and continue on here.
Liberty, and so do I. We disagree on 2 or 3% and agree on 97, 98%. And so we're really brothers, not enemies here.
Fuck off.
However, as I put up in my initial presentation, I showed that capitalism has done all these amazing things in the world, and yet it's so disliked and it's so distrusted. And I believe it's primarily it's a marketing problem, and it's because we've let the enemy.
Okay, hold on. Once again, my marketing teacher. I know Dr. Wilson. Dr. Wilson, I know you're up there in Colorado. And don't worry, I'm not going to specify things. But the thing is that this, okay, marketing and PR are two different things. Okay? So it's the same thing as marketing and advertising are not exactly the same thing. I know, like I say, Dr. Wilson, I'm trying. I know Dr. Wilson. I know you're up there. And you know what? I still think you're a nice guy. But no, these are not the same thing. And once again, it's bad PR because you have idiotic capitalists like you who make the argument, well, if you wanted somebody killed, that would be a benefit to you, but it would be hurtful for the larger society. Why would you make an idiotic argument like that? No, that's on you. It's like someone should write your stuff better. It's just...
of capitalism define it as greedy and selfish and exploitative, that it only cares about money. It's only about maximizing profits. Who cares if the pharmaceutical industries are screwing people or whatever? They're maximizing profits.
Well, yeah.
And I think trying to defend capitalism on that basis, that's what I think it falls into the trap of our enemies. Because the reality is human beings are both self-interested and we are altruistic. We are both. We are complex beings. These things matter.
Okay, let's take a look at Whole Foods here for a moment. Let me see what we got here. Whole Foods wage transparency. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, November 5th, 2020. Okay. Store managers could be making well over $100,000 without a college degree. Okay. So this is John Mackey here saying this. Let's see here. Yeah, Freakonomics. I've heard about that crap. It gives people something to strive for. According to Mackey, the idea is that employees think, wow, I had no idea that a coordinator... Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can... Team leaders, who are the employees in charge of a section of the store and train new employees, buy products and set pricing, determine profits, make $57,000 a year. Okay? So team members make an average annual pay of $30,000. So let's break that down here. So $30,000 divided by 12. That's $2,500 a month. Divide that by 2. So about 1,250. Maybe I'm off my gourd. Yeah, store team leaders or store managers are paid an average of $99,000 per year. Many companies believe that wage transparency is going to stoke envy. So it's better to try to keep it hidden. I believe envy can be a problem, but I think about it differently. Okay. Weird. Yeah. He doesn't want people realizing how capitalism works. Yeah. Whole Foods is $15 because Amazon owns it now, I'm pretty sure. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah. You are right about that, Punjabify.
Matter to us. We do seek our own good, and we seek the good of other people. It's satisfactory. To give to others and help others is intrinsic to human nature. And
Yeah.
I don't.
Exactly. People don't like it because they haven't been made to like it. People are just going on what they see and experience, not our propaganda. Exactly. That's why it's like, yeah, boomers will be, outright to defend it because they're like, yeah, we had the labor aristocracy and we were protected and everything else like that. I had a union job and, I've had my job for 20 or 30 years. Whereas millennials and people like me, we've had plenty of jobs where it's just like, they're like, well, we decided to let you go. And they kick you to the curb, or they'll say, well, you just weren't picking up the slack and everything else like that, and so it disincentivizes you over time, because yeah, you'll work hard and you'll come in early and all this sort of stuff. And then we're in heavy false consciousness. Yeah. Like I say, I wish I was better at these arguments to really understand it, but I'm trying to see it from a different sort of perspective, I guess, not just purely a Marxist one, but nonetheless, it gives a good indication of where these folks try to come from.
Like to have that argument turned around and said that just means they're selfish about helping other people, because to me that's the contradiction. So maximizing profits is a good thing. It's just simply not the purpose of business. The purpose of business is to create value for other people. Profits is the result of that. The more value we create for people, the more money that we will make, because it's done through voluntary exchange.
I think the biggest thing that I can say is that all of this is very abstract, where they'll say value, they'll talk about money, they'll talk about these very abstract. It's like, even though that, Mr. Brooke gentleman was talking about, well, capitalism in the air, but that's thankful, it's owed to these people that work hard and all this sort of thing. It's all about the abstractness of it all. Because if they talked about the actual on the ground stuff, of how much money they made, how much, workers are paid and everything else, it's a whole different matter, isn't it? So that's part of the problem. I think that's where, it's like if you actually talk about, but of course, just as someone else would say, oh, well, what about they'll just call it whataboutism. If you specifically talk about the market crashes, or if you talk about the, Enron scandal, I keep bringing these same points up. I apologize, but, or you bring up the, I don't know, the Ford Pinto and how they exploded, or, whichever example you want to choose, but all the failures of capitalism and how they could not predict where things went, it's like, through all it's like, even in 1930, it's like, how long did it take for U.S. industry to get together to come into a very, planned economy to create the war effort to fight in Europe and fight in Japan? It took quite a while, but yeah.
If we want to promote capitalism, that's the narrative we need to tell. We need to talk about our purpose. We need to talk about the values that we're the goodness and values that we're creating for other people.
The thing is that this is being talked. You act like this is the new thing, Bacon. This isn't. Plenty of companies are doing that to try to make themselves. It's why companies will support LGBTQ movements and will say, yeah, Black Lives Matter, this and that. But the thing is, of course, that you're still going to have Conoco who will still support police unions, but then also will give money to BLM because they're hedging their bets, because they're nothing but gamblers. Come on.
If we do that, capitalism's terrible reputation will begin to shift and change. As long as we're going to try to argue that it's all about making money and maximizing profits over the long term, we're going to lose this argument. And you know what? We're going to lose capitalism because we're going to become a socialistic society.
Fear mongering. You know what? We're going to get. The thing is that these guys, basically, this is the optic story, isn't it? Where it's like, Yoron Brooks is being just outright and being objective to saying, yeah, it's about self-interest and whatnot. But he had to back up and be like, well, it's not completely, this and that. But it's like, this guy's, it's just an argument of optics, isn't it? It's just about, I want to make things look better. And maybe I'll fool enough people. But it's like, no, there are plenty of people out there who will expose this and say, no. Look at what they donated money to. So no, this is nonsense.
I strongly urge people to begin to, all business people, whenever I get a chance, I always talk about the value creation you're giving. Yes, you're making money. That's a good thing because our society needs money. That's what drives the economy. But
no, once again, the economy does not run purely on that. It also comes down, talk about value. It also comes down to the value of a dollar. And the thing is that then you get into inflation and everything else. Inflation is going to hit hard. Like I say, inflation is going to get hard. Once the economy starts to open up more, inflation is going to be a motherfucker. Yeah, Whole Foods Market healthcare for 1,900 part-time employees. Oh, wow. Okay. Let me take a look here. Oh, wow. Oh, boy, yeah. Let's see what we got here. Foods. There we go. Yeah. The best solution is to not need health care. Oh, wow. Okay. Here's one. Now, I found this. This is another article. I'll go ahead and share the screen for this one. But yeah. Oh, wow. Hold on. I got to share the screen for this. Okay, let's go ahead and share the screen. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and, oh, wow. John Mackey, the best solution is to not need health care and for Americans to change how they eat and live. This is from this year. The best solution is to not need health care. Wow. The key to keeping people healthy in the United States is to eat better and live healthier lives. We talk about healthcare. The best solution is to not need healthcare. What? Hold on. What? I think even a Wignat would be like, what are you talking about? So, I mean, I guess if people get hurt, they should they should just take care of it at home. Or if someone gets a disease, they should just say, wow. The best solution is to change the way people eat, the way they live, the lifestyle and diet. There is no reason why people shouldn't be healthy and have a longer health span. A bunch of drugs is not going to solve the problem. Americans are not taking as good care of their own bodies as they ought to be. 71% of Americans are overweight and 42.5% are obese. Clearly, we are making bad choices in the way we eat. Yeah. It's not a sustainable path, and so I'm calling it out. Yep, you better stop selling those steaks then. You better stop selling those pork chops. Because that's part of it too. He penned a piece for the Wall Street Journal along the same ilk. The Whole Foods are alternative to Obamacare. This is a cat. Oh my goodness. This begins with the realization that every American adult is responsible for his or her own health. The libertarianism. I saw a video today from Reason TV about schools opening up in California, but the unions were being racist and everything else like that, and they said abolish public schools. I saw that comment numerous times. Abolish public school, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm nuts, absolute nuts. Yeah, the conscious capitalist. Yeah. Also, of course, it's best not to be in healthcare, but the problem is kind of food Americans get to eat, the kind of food low income brackets are limited to. Exactly. Absolutely. The controversial op-ed caused some to boycott Whole Foods. Wow. This begins with the realization that every American adult is responsible for his or her health. We should take that responsibility very seriously and use our freedom to make wise lifestyle choices. Once again, this is the extent of right-wing libertarians and their idea where it's just like, well, it's up to the individual to decide. This is why, oh my god, I cannot. Ugh. The hours people have to work for sustenance and the toll those hours take on their health. Exactly. Absolutely, Punjabify. Wow. I can't even. Okay, let's go ahead and remove this here. But this comes from this guy. This comes from this Gober right
We're
here.
never going to convince people that selfishness is good and greed is good. That's a losing argument. What we can do, we can win this argument in the world if we will talk about the value creation and that profits are therefore important because they drive the economy upwards and onwards, and humanity will continue to make progress. If we don't change our narrative, we're going to lose it all. That's my deepest fear and why I continue to champion conscious capitalism, higher purpose, and stakeholders. Thank you very much.
5 minutes of summation from you, Yaron. Take it away.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. And yes, John, looking forward to that private conversation. It's going to be, it'll be a lot of fun. And I agree. Somebody asked about common ground. Absolutely. We're obviously both passionate about capitalism. We both have a view about what is the best way to promote it and what is underlying the fundamental premises underlying it. And that is a debate worth having. And I think the mall debate is a debate worth having. I, for one, do not know anybody who says that they only care about money. That is a straw man. Nobody says that.
Are you sure?
The question is, what is the purpose of a business in a particular context, in your particular life? Not what is your purpose. Your purpose might be different than a business's purpose. But what is a business created to do as compared to any other institution that human beings have constructed? And it is created to do one thing, and that is create value in a particular way. There are lots of ways to create value.
They just keep repeating themselves, don't they? It's a good thing I skipped through this because holy shit, they are just repeating themselves at this point.
And many of them don't result in profit, financial profit. You know, I think I create some value for my wife on occasion. She certainly creates value for me, right? But it's not about profit. It's not about money, right? A business is where it is about money. A business is where we measure the quantity of value created with money, in a sense, with profit or with shareholder maximization, the shareholder value. That's how we're measuring the creation of value. So the end is the value, there's no question. What moves the world forward is the value. But whether that value is small or whether that value is big is measured through the profit. When profit is large...
Yes, but the thing is, like you said, maybe I oversimplified it with value, but the thing is that it's also about how much or where it comes from. It's the same thing even with diamonds, for example. There's a whole thing about conflict diamonds versus diamonds that were kind of, iffy if they came out of Sierra Leone. And the thing is, that was a hugely, these prices get inflated and deflated. These guys do not know anything about economics. Even I, the goober that I am, knows that the thing is that it's also dependent on the value of the dollar. So no, this is garbage.
When a company makes a lot of money, I celebrate. It means they've made a lot of value. They've created a lot of value in the world. It is a good thing, not a bad thing. So
the thing is that a lot of the time that could be artificial, though. Okay, yeah, they you know, just I can't really explain. I'm sorry, I'm just too dumb. Go ahead.
So I think that what integrates the decision-making of a business is this idea of how do we make money doing it? And I agree completely that everything's interdependent. And I mentioned that. In order to make money doing that, we have to deal with employees in such and such a way, and we have to deal with our suppliers in such and such a way, and we have to create a product that our customers actually like, and like a lot, so that our profit margins can be high. You know, I'll refer to Apple with regard to profit margins being high, right? So, of course it's interdependent, because there's no way for me to actually...
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is that a lot of businesses do not operate on, you know, they operate on razor-thin margins. We're talking like 18%. You know, this and that. So once again, this is absolute garbage type of argument right here. Go ahead.
Maximize profit. Unless I bring in all these other, call them stakeholders, into the fold. And unless, you know, their resources are mustered to enable the creation of value. And the only way to do that is for them to benefit as well. Of course, everything I say is in the context of moral behavior. It would be bizarre for anybody to come and say, yes, I believe in profit, and if you have to lie, steal, and cheat, that's okay, as long as it's profit. The underlying assumption, the implicit assumption, is always that we're doing it ethically. I also think that ethics is profit maximizing. I think there's no accident that Enron stock, did you ever see what happened to it? We all know where Enron stock got to zero, right? Ethical behavior pays. Unethical behavior is punished. Punished by the authorities when it's illegal, and punished by the marketplace when it might not be illegal, but is still unethical. So, purpose is amazing. The purpose of business is to maximize shareholder wealth.
He's not going to talk about black markets, huh? Okay.
And the only way to maximize shareholder wealth is by creating value. And to know, to focus your energies about a particular area in which you're maximizing shareholder wealth, because, you know, there's a million opportunities out there to make money. How do you know where to focus it? That is where your passion, that is where your mission, that is where your personal purpose comes in. That's why it should be framed, the maximizing shareholder wealth should be framed within the context of your mission, your purpose, your passion, your particular values. I would be, you know, I don't think John should go in to start competing with Apple. That's not where passion is. It's not where he's interested. He might be smart enough to compete with them, but it's not where his interests are. That's what purpose frames the context in which one maximizes long-term profits. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Yep. Okay. That's enough of that. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and show one other video, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this stream up here. But let's see here. Holy moly. That's like pulling teeth with this stuff. It's all abstract sort of stuff that they don't want to talk about. Okay. Let's get into this. Oh, shit. Sorry. Sorry about that. I meant to do, let's see here. Share video file. There we go. I meant to do this. Okay. There we go. Okay, so this is from the same folks that do China Uncensored, but now they're doing America Exposed. I didn't even notice this. So this is, oh my goodness. Let's go ahead and just get into this right now. So this is the same guy who does China Uncensored, absolute shill sort of stuff here. Very much, you know, as much as they dab on the U.S., it's somewhat right-wing as well, because they're like, oh, they talked about Coca-Cola being, you have to be less white. Oh, boy, give me a break.
heat for calling China's human rights abuses cultural differences. But wait, is that true?
Go ahead and skip past some of this here.
It meant he took the lead on the Obama administration's China policy. And that's actually why a lot of people are nervous about
Chris
the
Chappell,
Biden
that's his name.
administration's China policy. China looks a lot more aggressive and dangerous now than it did back in 2012. So people are worried that Biden will just use the same China strategy he did back then, which didn't work. Now, if you watch my other YouTube channel, China Uncensored, you know that China didn't just start getting aggressive back in 2012. The Chinese Communist Party has been aggressive for a long time. But in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot more people start to recognize that. Biden has said some ill-informed things about China.
See, it's most embarrassing because I used to like this guy, to be sad. I used to like this guy and Serpent Zede and all these sorts of folks who turned out to be all shills. They really did. It's like this guy, you know, he used to work for a Japanese TV station, I think NHK TV. He's tried to interview folks, and openly they got money from Falun Gong. So these guys are shills. You can feel as you want to about China and everything else, but no, this guy is disingenuous. Same thing with Serpent Zede, same thing with that Lao Y86. These are folks who are now promoting these ideas where it's just like, oh, China's bad and everything. But we're not racist though. We're not racist. Oh, you didn't miss that much, Union Army Ball. It was just a lot of cringe, a lot of just abstract talk, basically. We kind of went over a little bit of what Whole Foods said. So yeah, that's about it though. But yeah, now we're going to cover Chris Chappell and the guy from China Uncensored doing America Exposed.
Before, like this comment nearly 2 years ago.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They can't even figure out how to deal with the fact that they have this great division between the China Sea and the mountains in the west. They can't figure out how they're going to deal with the corruption that exists within the system. I mean, they're not bad folks, but guess what? They're not competition for us.
He later kind of walked that one back.
Do you view China as an opponent?
I view China as a competitor.
Biden has always had a reputation for putting his foot in his mouth. The term used by the media for that is a gaffe. Biden is so known for this that Time magazine has a list of top 10 Joe Biden gaffes. But earlier this week, conservative media outlets started reporting that Biden had dismissed the Chinese Communist Party's genocide of the Uyghurs, or excused that genocide as a cultural norm, or that he defended China's human rights record. That's a lot more serious than a gaffe, which means it's time for the return of our popular segment, Wait, is that true? But first, this short commercial break. Welcome back. Did Joe Biden dismiss China's genocide? It's time for, wait, is that true? The claim that Biden dismissed genocide as a different cultural
I better do some commentary that way I don't get
came from one of his
has been victimized by the outer world is when they haven't been unified at home. So the central, vastly overstated, the central principle of Xi Jinping is that there must be a united, tightly controlled China.
Yeah,
and he
why not?
uses his rationale for the things he does based on that. I point out to him, no American president can be sustained as a president if he doesn't reflect the values of the United States. And so the idea, I'm not going to speak out against what he's doing in Hong Kong, what he's doing with the Uyghurs in western mountains of China, and Taiwan trying to end the one China policy by making it forceful. I said, and by the he said he gets it. Culturally, there are different norms at each country, and their leaders are expected to follow. Yeah. But my point was that when I came back from meeting with him, traveling 17,000 miles with him when I was vice president, he was the vice president. That's how I got to know him so well, at the request of President Hu, not a joke, his predecessor, President Hu, and President Obama wanted us to get to know one another because he was going to be the president. And I came back and said they're going to end their one-child policy because they're so xenophobic they won't let anybody else in, and more people are retired than working. How can they sustain economic growth when more people are retired?
I'm starting to understand why Biden's conversation with Xi Jinping lasted 2 hours. There's a lot going on there, including the fact that President Biden seems to have repeated a Chinese Communist Party propaganda line about China's century of humiliation, that China was victimized in the past by other countries, which is why they need to keep the country tightly controlled now. It's propaganda that the Communist Party uses to justify its authoritarian rule. But let's play the part about the different norms again.
I point out to him, no American president can be sustained as a president if he doesn't reflect the values of the United States. And so the idea, I'm not going to speak out against what he's doing in Hong Kong, what he's doing with the Uyghurs in western mountains of China, and Taiwan trying to end the one China policy by making it forceful. I said, and by the he said he gets it. Culturally, there are different norms at each country, and their leaders are expected to follow.
Okay, it gets a little confusing there at the end, but in context, it seems like
it's not confusing at all. He's saying is that these are complex issues that go on. I can't believe I'm defending Joe Biden here, but it's like, no. The thing is that he's saying is that these are complex issues that go on between China, the Uyghurs, and everything. It's like the Uyghurs have been around for a long time. Uyghurs and Tibetans don't get along either, and the Hui Muslims don't get along with the Uyghurs. So it's just like, this is a fairly complicated issue that a lot of folks don't want to talk about. But of course, people usually just say, Uyghurs being put in camps, so bad. It's more to it than that.
the different cultural norms he's talking about are America's cultural norms. The ones that say, as president, Biden must reflect American values and speak out about human rights. Saying that this statement was Biden dismissing genocide is a real stretch.
This is a guy who still has camps for kids on the border. So yeah, let's not talk about human rights, shall we?
Especially after Anderson Cooper's follow-up question.
When you talk to him, though, about human rights abuses, is that as far as it goes in terms of the U.S., or is there any actual repercussions for China?
Well, there will be repercussions for China, and he knows that. What I'm doing is making clear that we, in fact, are going to continue to reassert our role as spokespersons for human rights at the UN and other agencies that have an impact on their attitude. China is trying very hard to
They don't have an impact
leader.
on their attitude, though.
And to get that moniker and to be able to do that, they have to gain the confidence of other countries. And as long as they're engaged in activity that is contrary to basic human rights, it's going to be hard for them to do that. But it's much more complicated than that. I shouldn't have tried to talk China policy in 10 minutes on television here.
Well, it's probably right about that last part. There were definitely issues with what Biden said at the town hall, though, which I'll get to after the break. Welcome back. Joe Biden's comment about different cultural norms does not mean he's excusing China's genocide, like some media headlines suggest. But there are still some potential problems with what judge the Biden administration's China policy based on the long, rambling, somewhat confusing answers that President Biden gave on television. Yeah. Instead, we should judge them on what they actually do. I know. Imagine judging an administration's entire China policy based on the president talking about how well he and Xi Jinping get along, or how much time they spent together, instead of the things that the administration actually does. Who would do something like that? The Biden administration is stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to China policy. On the one hand, confronting the Chinese Communist Party is one of the only things that both Democrats and Republicans agree on, which is why this New York Times article says that Biden is on a short leash when it comes to China policy. But politically speaking, the Biden administration also can't publicly agree with the Trump administration. So they have to position themselves as being just as tough on China, but more comprehensive and effective, even if that means they end up taking positions that are less effective than the Trump administration.
Yeah.
But at least those positions are different. There's also pressure from Wall Street and U.S. companies that still want to do business in China. They want to go back to the way things were before Trump. So far, the Biden administration seems to want to find a way to both confront the Chinese regime and cooperate with it. Mr. Biden's top foreign policy.
Okay. Let's go ahead and skip a little bit more here because I can't listen to all this.
If the Biden administration comes out and says that it's not a genocide, morals aside, it's politically stupid. That would be a bigger gaffe than anything Biden said on CNN. So what do you think of Biden's China policy so far? Would you like to see me do more episodes of Wait, Is That True? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, YouTube heavily demonetizes us, and we can't make this show without you. You can support us for as little as $1 an episode at patreon.com/AmericaUncovered. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, man. I didn't realize that was going to be that bad. But still, I think that what we kind of saw with that first debate, quote unquote, with Reason TV, is we saw how these people think. It's just abstract notions. If you bring up specific events, they're like, well, that was bad, but, the same thing with this Chris Chappell guy who is trying to appear, who's just, I just think he's a shill. I really do. I think that this is a guy who's just like, mud China is bad and whatnot. I practice Chinese martial arts. And I mean, the thing is, he's tried to talk to folks. He's tried to talk to Chinese, officials and everything like that. And they've blocked him. So, I mean, this guy is just, he's a joke. I feel sorry for people like this. But yeah, I think that's all I can really say. I hope y'all enjoyed this stream. It wasn't as fun as I thought it would be, but I'm glad I didn't. And I also wanted to show the new intro and outro that I made. And the reason TV videos debunks the claim that capitalism is based in materialism. Yeah. I can agree with that. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. See you later, though, folks. Let's go ahead and wrap it up here. Let's go ahead and do the outro, and I'll see you later. I think Punjabify, I believe he is, yeah. I think that's been kind of proven. I'm not sure where exactly I can find it, but I'm sure if you type in, Chris Chappell Falun Gong, let me see. Yeah, I'll go ahead and see if I can cover it real quick before we go. Yes?
Addiction.
Yeah. Let's see here. There's Reddit, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Let's see here. BreadTube. Oh, it's all Reddit crap. Okay. Chris Chappell bias. Let's see here. Let's see what we got here. Originally from LA. He told the Daily Dot that he became interested in Chinese culture at 19. Huh. Well, I can't find anything specific, but yeah, it's out there. So I'll leave it at that. I hope y'all enjoy that, though, and see you later. Goodbye. Let's go ahead and play the outro here.
No, not yet. You missed it. You still haven't beaten me. This time you won't be so lucky as to escape death. Take my word for it. You... Bastard. Pretend you're dying. You found my vital nerve. Who'd have thought it was his hand? Right there!